Good afternoon and welcome to The Lyric Professors. Professor A, I'm joined by Professor Dogger, as above, so below. And on the other side of the world, Professor J. How are things on the other side of the world, Professor J?
Aloha.
Aloha.
It's very hot. Professor Ray, I'm very disappointed to see you're not continuing the 40 hat sequence has been broken.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Too tired, really. I nearly lost my cap that I've worn twice yesterday. It almost got blown off my head and out the window as I was driving. I had to go, catch it. So since then I haven't worn a cap, but yes, I shall.
Some sort of tape.
Yes, maybe, or slightly bigger head. Yes, I shall. I shall resume that next episode, possibly.
Lovely.
Unless it's really, really hot, in which case I won't. Yes. So, what are we doing today? We're discussing a song which we have each chosen. First one being mine, which is a song by a band now defunct, sadly, called Choir of Young Believers. The song is called Hollow Talk. What do you know about the Choir of Young Believers?
Well, I knew nothing about them prior to this. And now I have a potted history. Do you want me to do the potted history?
Please.
Or would you like to pot?
I know. Yes. I'm finding it hard to speak, to be honest. So, yes,
okay. Yeah. So the Choir of Young Believers is a dude, more or less. And that dude is Yanis Noya Makrinjanis, who is of Danish origin, although he has an interesting mix of Danish, Greek, and Indonesian in him. He was a sort of underground musician in the underground circles of the Danish indie scene. And he was part of a legendary band called Lake Placid. What do you know about Lake Placid?
I don't know any about. I knew he was in a band called Lake Placid. I didn't realise they were legendary, so I didn't research them.
So I did some research on them, and I can't find a Danish Lake Placid, although there is a German rock band called Lake Placid who've been around since '78. But I don't see his name associated with them, so I've not been able to find anything about Lake Placid. And there's not much about this guy online. So he was in that band, all this sort of underground stuff. People seem to really like him. And then in 2006, he started working on solo material. And it came. He kind of took a break. And as I mentioned, he's a mix of his ancestry is Greek and Indonesian and Danish, and he took a break on the Greek island Samos, and he made some demos there, and then he came back to Denmark and assembled a kind of revolving group of musicians that became the Choir of Young Believers.
It's very similar to other bands we've mentioned, which are actually one person, Sisters of Mercy.
Yeah, there is a theme there.
Yeah, Water Boys in a former incarnation we've mentioned.
And to a certain extent, the next group we're going to talk about as well. Yeah. So that's as much to know. They've got a few sort of, they're kind of there was a nice description I had of it, if I can just find that. They combine folk melodies, orchestral instrumentation, and dark lyrics, which I think encapsulates this song pretty well. I've listened to some others. There's some interesting versions online as well, including this one that's recorded with the Danish Symphonic Orchestra, which is a good version. Yeah.
Right.
So you chose the song "Hollow Talk." Why did you? Why did you choose this, Professor A?
I'm sure it probably annoyed him quite a lot, but this is generally known as the song from the bridge rather than Hollow Talk. The bridge was a fantastic what do they call it, Scandi noir detective thingy, based on a body being found on the bridge exactly halfway between Sweden and Denmark. Thus, the two police forces had to combine to investigate it. They both had jurisdiction. This has obviously been remade a couple of times, in fact. I think, is there an American version of the bridge? There's certainly an Anglo-French one with the channel.
There is. I will talk about that once we've
Yeah.
done the songs. It's very distracting what I'm going to be talking about.
Right. So anyway, that was the Bridge first series came out in 2011, and if you're into that Scandi noir stuff, it's fantastic. Obviously, for most people who don't live in Scandinavia, it's probably a subtitles job. Certainly was for me, but I usually find that very distracting. In this case, I didn't. I just watched the whole thing.
Yeah. So this whole Scandi noir thing, it's a big thing, right? I don't know. I've never seen any Scandi noir. So Scandi noir is this sort of dark police sort of investigation stuff filmed in Scandinavia, right?
But they all wear nice knitwear.
Of course. Them and the Icelandics, right?
Yes,
They love a good knitwear.
They do. Yeah, I mean the first one, which made it big over here, was called The Killing. I think it's Full Bridalson in Danish, I think, something like that. And that's also been remade in America. The American one isn't very good, but the Danish one is very good. So yeah, there's a whole genre of things. Do you know what the most popular detective show is in Denmark? Just as an aside.
Trying to think of a funny answer and I'm failing.
Well, the answer
No,
is quite funny. It's Midsummer Murders.
Okay.
The sort of cozy home counties British
Yeah.
detective show, and they in fact did have a tie-in with The Killing. A couple of the detectives,
Really?
a couple of Danish detectives came over to help investigate the case, and then they went to Copenhagen to investigate.
Is it still a thing, Midsummer Murders?
Yeah, it is. There was a new one on last week. New. I say new to this country. For some reason, they appear to have filmed another 3 series, which have only been shown in America, even though it's all shot over here with British actors. And it's very strange.
I've never watched it knowingly.
No, I like it.
What's the one that's set in the Caribbean?
Death in Paradise.
Yeah,
That's got
I've
some
seen that
nice
either.
scenery. Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about
Okay.
detective shows. This has been detective shows with the Blue.
Yeah. So it's a nice song. I've never heard it before, having never seen this TV show. Never knowingly heard it before. Some really beautiful piano at the beginning. I like the strings. I've written that they're kind of graty. They're sort of very, you know, like I think it's a really nice tune. Feels good. And then this orchestral version, instead of using this piano, because that piano sound is really intense on the original, they're using I don't know what the right word is, xylophone type thing.
Yeah, it's not a timpani, is it? It's something else. No, don't know. Yeah, nice. Anyway, yeah, I have a comment on what that piano actually is. I mean, I know you can see them playing a piano, but someone, what's his name? Ricky Rooksby, apparently. He has a site where he posts lots of things about music. He claims to be a composer, a musician, and a guitar teacher. And he said, musically, the song is constructed from 2 sequences: D fifth, F, G, B flat / D, with a piano D pedal note running through it. It's a good example of the power of a pedal note to create a hook.
D what?
D fifth.
D fifth. Yeah, okay.
F, G, B flat with a D thingy.
Is it what thingy? Right.
B flat / D, whatever that means. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know music. I don't know some music.
So D fifth is just an A.
That was it.
Power chord.
Yeah.
Fifth is just a power chord.
Right.
And then G is a minor. That's the minor third.
Right.
And then what else did you say?
E flat.
G.
D fifth,
E.
F, G, B flat
E.
/ D.
Yeah. So your F is the minor third. The G is the perfect fourth. And then, yeah, the B flat is a sharpened fifth,
Right.
which kind of gives it that sort of suspense.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
And then he says later in the song, when this is supplied a bass line, it becomes D minor, F, G, B flat sixth. Whatever that means.
B flat is a flattened sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Oh no, it's the minor sixth.
Right.
Yeah, if you're in the minor, it is the sixth.
Okay, so
1,
that's
2,
what
3,
it
4,
turns
5,
into.
6.
And then there's a second section which goes E minor, D minor, G, D minor / F.
Interesting.
And he says the E minor chord comes as something of a shock. So basically, what I was trying to get out of that was he says that the piano is a pedal note, not a.
Okay, like a drony note. E minor comes as a shock. 1, 2. No reason.
No, well, that's what he says.
In the second is E minor, it's not E major. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Should we do some wordsies?
Yeah, can do. I have no idea what they mean, I have to say. If I could just continue first with this Ricky Rooks, he also had something to say about the vocals. He said, part of what hooks me about this song is the fact that initially it's difficult to make out what language it's sung in. It's English, but with a strong Danish accent and a deliberate blurring of the words. Language thus becomes something suggesting meaning rather than denoting it. The Cocteau Twins did the same thing back in the late 1980s. So,
okay.
that's what he had to say. He's
I didn't notice that.
They are sort of slurred together, the words. I presume you spoke perfect English. Most people in Scandinavia do, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's mostly sort of to obscure the words so that you go away and look them up and try and work out what he means. But I'm not entirely sure most of it means much, to be honest. There we go. It's just sort of cool lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go for some words. Echoes start as a cross in you. Trembling noises that come too soon. Spatial movement which seems to you resonating your mask or feud. Hollow talking and hollow girl. Force it up from the root of pain.
Yeah, so
I'm trying not to laugh.
he's not overly bothered with rhyming, which is a nice change.
They're all rhyming. You soon, you feud.
You
Girl
soon.
pain.
Okay, right. Yeah. Spatial movement. That's a nice one. What other kind of movement is there?
Musical.
Ah,
Going from the D to the E minor.
vowel, maybe. Yes. Echoes start as a cross in you. Trembling noises come too soon. It's almost Blue Oyster Culty.
It is.
There's no weird words they've looked up in the dictionary from 1420. Trembling noises that come too soon. The noises are too soon. They're not ready yet. That was a
That is true.
that was a Grolsch advert, which is a Danish beer. Shush, it's not ready yet. Talk about how they brew their beer for much longer. So whether that's obviously it's not. I was just on a Danish frame of mind, maybe. Resonating your mask or feud. It's all these sounds that are coming along. You're not ready for it. And it's causing you to think about your hollow talking. So perhaps the sound, the spatial, the trembling noises is hollow talk. It's the same thing. A hollow girl.
Those start as a cross in you. So cross, that's some, is it religious or, you've got your cross to bear? Like,
Could be. Doggo, no. No, it's very annoying. Possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think one has a tendency to think it would be a churchy, religious thing from the band name, but I don't think it was ever.
I'm not saying it's religious, but I'm just wondering what that sort of first line means. Echo starts across in you, so the echoes.
I don't know what it means. I'm sorry. Cannot decipher it. It's beyond us. Let us know.
Okay, well, let's try some more, see what we can
Of
find.
course, I said no one on Genius had even hazarded a guess. So it's not just us that are a bit stumped.
Okay, all right. Never said it was good, never said it was near. Shadow rises and you are here. That rhymes.
Does, yeah. Sounds vampire-y to me, because most things do, but it's not.
It does.
It's gnomic. I do love that word.
Of gnomes.
Yes, pretty much. Hard to decipher.
Yeah.
Yes.
The next bit is the bit that I really like in terms of the lyrics and the music. And then you cut it out, and everything goes back to the beginning. I really like that.
And this was echoed in, excuse me, in the bridge, where at the end of the fourth and final series, the Swedish detective Saga Noren, I think, goes back to where the first body was found and throws a police badge over the side of the bridge. She's done with it. So I'm sure he didn't write it knowing about that, because that series probably hadn't been written. So, but I think they used that intentionally. I'm pretty sure someone was playing at the same time. Yeah, everything goes back to the beginning. Everything does sort of tend towards a normality in general. The rule of law, not the law of people, but the law of the universe.
Yeah. Beginning is a very delicate time.
Yes.
First lines in June.
Okay.
Okay, I like that bit. I mean,
it's good. Yes.
I wondered if cutting it out, cut someone out of your life. You could cut out a problem, or you could cut a cancer out of someone.
You could. You could also cut a line of coke or something.
Maybe. More words. Silence seizes a cluttered room.
Clouded.
Okay. I have cluttered. Light is shed, not a breath too soon. Darkness rises in all you do, bending and drawn across the room. Facial movements are butterflies. Shadows scatter without a fire.
Well, yeah. So it's talking about sound again, but this is the absence of sound this time instead of the emergence of sound in the first place. Light is shed, not a breath too soon. So everything's suddenly gone still. It's the moment of, if there's a pre-version of catharsis, which obviously is a sort of after the event. Oh, I'm so tired. Everything comes into a point, and that's the sort of crux of the matter. I'm getting all bruised culty again. The nexus of the crisis, as they would put it. Origin of storms. Yeah, so it's like everything's coming towards this point, and this is the crucial point.
Facial movements are butterflies.
So yeah, it's still really spatial movements.
And then I like this shadows scatter without a fire. So like when you have a fire, the shadows sort of move around. So they're sort of.
It's quite spooky.
It
does sound very vampire to me.
It does sound very vampire.
Yes, standing and drawn out across the room, being drawn out, of course, can be sort of over exhausted, strung out. So it could be drugs still. Drugs or that.
Yes, probably drugs. Okay, more words. And there's never been bad, there has always been truth. Muted whisper of the things she'll move. Some rhyming there, truth and move.
Absolutely. Bad and muted. Yeah, there's never been bad. Yeah. There probably has. At some point. There's always been truth. Sounds like trying to convince yourself to me.
Yeah.
There's definitely talking about a girl, as he says, a hollow girl in the first verse. Keeps going back to she does this, she. She'll move muted whispers. It's a quandary.
I think it's good. I think it's it's never been bad. I mean, I like that. Bad, you say think of something that you've done is bad, then you can't move on from it, right? It's just happened. You've just got to accept it and move on, right?
Guess so.
And then we've got repetitions, right? Then you cut it out again, and then never said it was good, never said it was new.
Yeah.
And final word, muted whisper of the things you feel.
Yep, so back to the muted whisper from the last pre-chorus, excuse me. The whispers are muted. Is that not a tautology or whatever it is?
Yeah. I mean, it really is poetry. Could we argue this is the most poetic lyrics we've covered?
Quite possibly.
Obscurest meanings. I mean, there's no whoop yeah girl.
Still like the Jim White one for poetry. Yeah. And Nick Cave's verging on poetics. Maybe not the ones we did.
Okay. And that is it. So it's random poetry with
vampires.
Random vampire poetry. Yeah. Go for that.
Yeah. Quite about song, the development of it. This is an interview with Anna Lynn Williams of identitytheory.com. She says, I really appreciate the pacing and space of Hollow Talk. It reminds me of the kind of subtlety that Talk had. Is the album arrangement of the song the way you always envisioned it, or was there a lot of editing and restraint involved? He replies, Hollow Talk is a bit special because it wasn't actually supposed to be on the record. I liked it a lot. It was very new and not ready to be recorded at all. But Anders Reddin, the producer, heard me play it and thought we should try to finish it together so it could make the record. And so we did. Hollow Talk is the only song we finished writing in the studio. The rest of the songs more or less ended up like I imagined they would. So this one was the only one that wasn't written on Yasamos.
Yeah.
And I can see the comparisons to Talk Talk. It's just a slightly different type of music.
Yeah.
The depth and the complexity. I did consider picking Talk Talk for one of my bands.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah. He died young, didn't he? This
39, I think. Yes.
39.
I don't know what it everywhere says he died after a short illness, so it could have been vampires or drugs or COVID. Who knows?
One of the two.
3.
Vampire drugs.
Yes. So yeah, it's sad. It's a very young age to go.
Yeah, it really is. Do you want a word count?
Oh, let's have a sting.
It is time for Professor J's word count.
So we have. What do you want to guess?
I'm not around too tight to guess.
Okay, well, it's 86, so it's below the Paramore paradigm.
Oh, yes.
With a total of 150. So
just over half.
Yeah, I mean it's 57% unique words, which is high.
Yeah.
But
he does repeat phrases which aren't common phrases intentionally, like muted whispers and spatial movements, which wouldn't be normal repetitions in most songs.
Okay, should we give it an arbitrary
Let's give it a
miracle score?
5, 6.
Yeah, I'd say 6.
6. Okay. Cool.
Good. Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit more about this TV show. I've not seen what's it called? The TV show?
The Bridge.
The Bridge. But I have seen the French version, which is called The Tunnel, which I imagine follows the same. It's only 3 series. Follows the same thing. There's a body found exactly halfway between the channel, which is the tunnel that connects England and France. I did rewatch the the intro today, and that when they go to move the body, it's actually split in half. Is that the same?
No, it's just lying directly across the centre line.
And I think that's part of it, because they'd say it's going to be a French investigation, and then they go to pick up the body, and it's actually 2 bodies that they've kind of put together. If I remember right, I could be misremembering that. You put my jazz master back. Yeah, so I went in to listen to see if it was the same music. And I don't know if the TV shows follow a similar thing. But the French music is super spooky. It's really wild. It's a piece. Let's call it a song, called "The End of Time." And it's sung by Charlotte Gainsbourg, which is
Serge's daughter.
Exactly. Well, I mean, a very appropriate singer to sing it, since she's born to French manner and English mother. And so there's this really spooky kind of breathy type singing, a bit like that, over a song, a tune, which is called A Maiden's Prayer, which is a famous ditty that was composed by a Polish composer, Tekla Beda-Juska Baranowska, and it's really well known. Some have liked it for its charming and romantic melody. Others have described it as sentimental salon tosh. And Charlotte Gainsbourg, over the top of it, gives these lyrics, which are half French, half English, kind of translations of each other, but not quite. So it's "Venez dans mes bras, closer to me, dear. Donnez-vous à moi, set aside all fear. Restons enlacés pour l'éternité. Yes, you shall be mine till the end of time."
Vampires.
I'd really encourage you to listen to it. It's like 56 seconds, and it's as spooky as spooky vampire stuff. It really is good. And you could, and it seems to have just been done for that, just written for that. There is no release of it.
56 seconds, that would be pushing it for a single.
Yeah, but excuse me, it's not on an album or anything like that. It's just a thing for that.
Right, I shall certainly give that a listen. This track, Hollow Talk, was also in the series, TV series Numbers, with the 3 where the E should be, which I've not watched, but I believe it was popular. It's been in One Tree Hill. Another one. It's been in a Danish drama called Submarino, I don't know. These were all before The Bridge, in fact. Then The Bridge, and it's been in a series called Rain, R-E-I-G-N, which I don't know. So it's quite popular for
the TV stuff.
Things, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we go to my choice then.
Let's go to your choice. That'd be good.
So mine one-off song that's not worth digging into the artist. I've chosen by the Crash Test Dummies.
Indeed.
No other reason that it's an absolute banger.
It is an absolute one.
So this is a 1993 song by the Crash Test Dummies, who are a Canadian rock band from Winnipeg, Manitoba. What do you know about the Crash Test Dummies,
I
Professor A?
have only heard 2 songs by them. This one,
What's the second song you've heard?
Superman song.
Okay. What do you think of it?
Don't like it much. I say I've only heard 2 songs, but I do actually own the album with on it, so I presume I have listened to the rest of that album as well, but I don't.
Yeah. So they've got a couple of songs that they are known for, apart from this. There's Spoonfuls of Afternoons and Spoonfuls, something like that. And the Superman song, which was 91, so it was a really big hit in Canada, that. I thought that there would be other songs that I knew or that I liked and I'd heard of, and I can 100% tell you I've not heard any of the rest of it before. I don't like any of the rest of it except for one specific exception, which is they covered one of the songs for one of my favorite movies.
Oh, right. Gosh.
This movie being Dumb and Dumber. Which is an amazing movie. And for that, Crash Test Dummies did a cover of XTC's Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead.
Excellent.
I
have not heard
and that. It wasn't the main guy singing it. It was Ellen Reid singing it. Where it feels very different. So yeah, so they're a Canadian band, started in 1988. And really, it's Brad Roberts. This is the guy who's a vocals, guitarist, writer. He's got a distinctive bass baritone voice.
Yeah, his voice is amazing.
I mean, it's unlike anything else he's singing.
Right.
It's a bit like a joke.
Well, it's like Barry White and Paul Robeson going back in time at very similar voices.
I don't know who that is. I know Barry
Look
White.
him up. He was an actor and singer. It's very of its time, sort of 60s, 70s. But,
yeah. So,
do you know what they were originally called when they filmed themselves?
I do, but you hit me with it.
In 1986, they formed as Bad Brad Roberts and the St. James Rhythm Pigs. Which is just,
I mean, that is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really, really wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. So, got some other things to talk about, but should we dive into some lyrics?
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for me to do these lyrics without singing them, so I'm going to do my best. Once there was this kid who got into an accident and couldn't come to school. But when he finally came back, his hair had turned from black into bright white. He said it was from when the cars had smashed so hard.
Yes.
Yeah. I couldnn't really hear that the cars had smashed so hard. I didn't notice before that I'd never actually heard what he was singing. Did you hear?
I knew the lyrics. So basically, it's about 3 different kids. The songs, and each one's supposed to have a progressively worse situation.
Indeed. Indeed. So yeah, so there's a child can come to school because he was in a car crash, and the shock of the car crash turned his hair from black into white.
You're sciencey and vaguely medically. Is this a thing? Is this actually possible? I know you hear about it, but
yes and no. So stress, as we all know. I remember a colleague who, when we were going through a tough time at work where the organization was merging, closing, he had his hair fall out in patches. He had like clumps of his hair falling out, and it can turn grey. I don't know if it can turn grey if it's already grown though. So that's the only thing I'd say. Yeah. Probably can't turn, but the new hair growing could become grey. So I would imagine that any new growth he has is grey, for a period and then reverts back, like this guy that I used to work
Sure.
with, who lost his hair and then it grew back when later. So yeah, so
stress is where mine's on.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, so it's a story about this kid who, poor kid, lost his hair, turned grey.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what it says in the tin.
Yeah, okay, next verse. Once there was this girl who wouldn't go and change with the girls in the change room. But when they finally made her, they saw birthmarks all over her body. She couldn't quite explain it. They'd always just been there.
Yeah. If we just go back to the chorus briefly. It's like that because he hadn't bothered to write any lyrics for the chorus. And
Really?
Yeah, did a little hum in the studio and the band liked it. So,
Yeah, so another story of a kid at school who had some strange birthmarks and tried to hide it.
Did she? I always wondered if they were bruises from being abused, and she explained them away as birthmarks. I'm not sure. It could be.
Okay, I didn't interpret it like that. That is a interesting one. And then we have a kind of a middle eight. Moving on to the next piece, which is both girl and boy were glad because one kid had it worse than that, and as you said, this is kind of building up tension to this bit at the end. And the third and final verse is because then there was this boy whose parents made him come directly home right after school. I keep reading the rhythm of the song. And when they went to their church, they shook and lurched all over the church floor. Couldn't quite explain it. They'd always just gone there.
Yeah, so
woo woo woo
this is the pinnacle of bad things for the kids. So going to home after school and being taken to a church is worse than being in a car crash. I suppose it probably is. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, it's an absolute banger of a song. Really, really like it.
Yeah.
And I like that it's relatable, right? You've got kids trying to hide something at school. We've all got something now or at school that we're embarrassed about, don't want to talk about or show.
Well, I was at school. I was bullied a lot because my parents were divorced.
Right.
Everybody's divorced now, but no one was back then. So
yeah, so we've all had something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that makes it very relatable. That these things. So it's each one describes the isolation and suffering of a different child. During a live performance of this song, Roberts whispered Pentecostal during the third verse, suggesting the domination of the verse. And in fact, this is largely autobiographical.
Right.
He was in a few serious car crashes as a child. Poor thing. Sure.
That's why his voice is the way it is.
Yeah.
Because the cars smash so hard.
Yeah. I mean, that's Jim Morrison, right?
Was he in car crashes?
Well, there's that whole thing. Indians lie on Dawn's highway bleeding. Ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind.
Absolutely.
Why haven't we done the Doors yet?
Because I don't really know the Doors at all.
All right, I might be making a shocking change for
the next one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So he was in a few serious car crashes. I'm sorry to laugh, but that sounds. I don't know if Winnipeg, Manitoba is particularly dangerous in terms of
particularly icy, I think. But
yeah, it's true. Ice road truckers.
Perhaps his parents were shaking and quaking while they were driving.
Right. Yep. So he also has a birthmark at the base of his spine, which got him bullied as a child.
Right.
And he knew a girl who went to a Pentecostal church, speaking in tongues, blah 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 blah. In terms of the hair turning from black to bright white, he'd heard stories about this phenomenon, which is called canitis subita.
Oh, right. Sudden.
Yes, canitis, is that white? I don't know. It's happening to survivors of perilous experiences, including a man who almost went over Niagara Falls.
Almost.
And his great uncle, not to the guy who went over Niagara Falls, but Brad Robert. Bad Brad. His great uncle fought in the Pacific Theatre of World War II. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. I mean, it's an absolute banger. I think it's very relatable. You know, even though the words are very simple, I think it's really, really relatable, which was always stuck with me, this song. And I think it was very well received at the time, but I just want to dive into something a little bit, which is that recently everybody hates it. Nowadays, everybody hates it.
Well, it's tall poppy syndrome, as we've mentioned, isn't it? You build something up and then cut it down.
Yeah. So this has now frequently been included on the lists of bad songs. It was number 15 on VH1's most annoyingly bad songs ever. It was
Most
also number
bad songs ever.
Most awesomely bad songs ever. It was 15, also 15 on Rolling Stone's most annoying song. It was number 31 of Blender's list of the worst 50. Huffington Post Canada ranked it number 29 of the 50 worst Canadian songs ever. Contrastingly, VH1 named it as the 31st greatest one-hit wonder of the 1990s.
That's the same one that had one of the most awesomely bad songs ever. Yeah.
And can I give?
It's not that bad though, is it? I mean, there's no way it's one of the 50 worst songs ever.
It's great. I think it's catchy. I like it. Maybe it's been overplayed for people, and I've not had that.
I haven't heard it played in years.
Oh, I heard it recently. That's why I chose it. Can I give a little humorous aside to this song? The humorist P.J. O'Rourke wrote in 1994 that he stated the case that modern life is better than life in the past. And he wrote, "Even the bad things are better than they used to be. Bad music, for example, has gotten much briefer. Wagner's Ring Cycle takes 4 days to perform, while by the Crash Test Dummies lasts little more than 3 minutes."
Oh well, I don't think they cared much. It was a number one in loads of places.
Yeah.
And you know where?
Yes, please.
It was number one in Australia, in Belgium, in Denmark, in Germany, in Iceland, in Lithuania, in Norway, in Sweden, in US alternative airplay charts. That was it. And it was a top 5 in pretty much every other country as well. It was a massive, massive hit.
Well, I think there's a better way to define if a song is a banger or not. I may shock you, Professor A. Do you know what my definition is?
Is it a word count?
It's not a word count. Oh, we should do the word count. Should we do the word count?
Let's do the word count. I can't do
Okay, well, it's pretty much the same as the last one. So it's 86 unique words with 196 in total. It falls below the Paramore paradigm and above the Ben Folds median.
We've given up on the per algorithm then, haven't we?
Oh, the per. I knew there was something.
I like the paradigm. That makes sounds better. It's easier to say.
Would you like to PAL score this one?
Absolutely. It's got some causes in it, I'm afraid.
It does have some cos, but I'll give you that. Drop it down to a 15.
You're not getting a 15. It's got rhymes which aren't at the end of lines. Like he finally came back, his hair had turned from black. It's not the end of the line. But then the rest of it doesn't rhyme. Rhyming doesn't matter. It's a 5 or 6, I think.
I'll give it a 5.
Yeah,
I could probably go a bit higher with your Hollow Talk.
Okay.
I'm going for 7 for Hollow Talk. 7.5. I like it a lot. There we go. Okay. So yes, I was saying, how do we know that this song is a massive banger? And the reason is because it's been parodied by Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes. I haven't heard his version. It's called something else, isn't it? Something about news or.
It's called Headline News, and there's a couple of things that are interesting about it that I want to dive in. Have you seen the video of the original song?
I have, but not for a long time. I mean, you've got That's a Still from it, I think, at the bottom right. It's hard to see.
Yeah, but that doesn't really sort of portray the video. They're in a theatre, so they're in a theatre. There's a play going on, and they're sort of giving a sort of theatrical play version of each of these incidents, and then you see the reactions of the people in the crowd, and that's kind of the principle of the movie, of the video. And the Weird Al Yankovic one, very much the same, but he chooses 3 different stories. The first one being and topical stories at the time, presumably back in 93, I believe. The Weird Al,
same year,
maybe like 90, same year or very soon after, 93 or 94. So the first is a boy who went to Singapore and came back with a sore bottom, and that's because he'd bought a spray can and sprayed it, and then got caned in Singapore, who has notoriously strict laws on such things. The second one was about a skater who dreamed of being a champion-winning skater, and then when she got to being that skater, she found there was someone who was better than her.
So
she paid someone to whack him on the knee. Now I can't remember what the third one was. But there are a couple of other things that I really want. Well, there's one thing in particular that I really want to be. Can you tell me, like, the latter part of the music of this song, what you think of it, the way it's written, and because there's some odd noises.
I don't remember them.
La, 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 la. Oh, that's it. I'm sorry. I've remembered by Googling. That's how one remembers these days. The third part is about what's his name? The person who had his member chopped off. Bobbitt.
Bobbitt, yes.
Wayne Bobbitt.
The woman was Lorena.
That's right. And there is a funny bit in the lyrics when he said, "Oh yeah, they call the member Mr. Happy," and they have Wayne Bobbitt, something else.
John Wayne Bobbitt.
John Wayne Bobbitt. That was it. They said he wasn't quite sure; it had always just been there. talking about Mr. Happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this kind of later bit in the original song where there's some sort of strange noise, but the way that Weird Al parodies it, first of all, there's an accordion, and there's Professor Dogger knows this is the best bit. There's a very extended hand farting solo, so it's like doing this. And it's brilliant.
Yes.
I found it really tickled me. This extended hand fart.
Yes.
So well done, Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, another quote from a review of this song, which is a bit surprising. Caitlin Moran from Melody Maker said, "It's delicate like Hope and half broken like Nick Cave. It heaves and sighs with a choir to die for and a guitar line that snags on the heart." So she liked it. I wouldn't say it's particularly Nick Cave-ish myself.
But it's very personal, right?
Yeah,
it's very, and it's easy to relate to and that sort of thing. So I understand what it's on about.
Yes.
There we go. That's everything I had for this absolute banger.
Yeah.
So looking back at what we've learned today, so I mean, it's catchy, right? But then it's got these lyrics that are very personal that everybody can relate to. And then your hollow talk. It's just poetry on acid, right?
Yes.
And oh yeah, we've got the most important bit. You've got to mention vampires.
Yes. Birthmarks on the girl, probably vampire marks. Actually.
Definitely vampires.
Yes. Do you know what the B-side of the American single was called?
Oh, I don't.
It's called "How Does a Duck Know?"
The Weird Al Yankovic single.
No,
This
that's the Crash Test Dummies.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe I have to look that out because it's a good title.
There's a classic. We should listen to it before. A bit like in our previous episode. Let's have a corrections corner. Our previous episode when we were talking about how to destroy angels, and we mentioned that the group is named after the EP
Coil.
from the band Coil, and we mentioned that neither of us had listened to that music, and I went back and listened to it, and it's really kind of modern sounding ambient stuff. Yeah, like very modern, like, I mean, real ambient, which is music that is background music and doesn't interrupt the mind too much. It's good. Yeah. Corrections corner complete. Okay.
So we are going to be back next time with a new 3-parter on who knows.
Who knows? Somebody may have changed their mind all of a sudden.
May have done, yes. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Sorry if I phoned it in a bit. A lot of driving yesterday. Yeah, so give us a like, give us a ringy bell, give us a comment, give us a reason to continue. That'd be nice. And we shall see you anon. Farewell.
Bye.